And level check. What, folks, I'm sorry, I got to do this. Level check, test 1, 2, 3. Okay, I'm too hot. The feed's too low. Level check, test 1, 2, 3, 4. So bring the feed up a little bit, please. Okay, that's good. I'm still a little hot, but I'll deal with it. Okay, folks, greetings, and I'm too hot. Bring me down a little bit. I'm sorry, we cannot do this. It's never the same when we test it as when we go live. Okay, that, I'll make do with this. Anyway, we're here. We're in Los Angeles, day 2, folks. Great to have you here on the EIB network. Rush Limbaugh. Telephone number is 800-282-2882, and the email address ilrushbaugh@eibnet.com. Okay, so what is the state of play now? I, ladies and gentlemen, your know everything, in touch host, even I, mere moments ago, was still trying to get the lay of the land on where we are on what's going on in Washington vis-a-vis the supposed shutdown, vis-a-vis the continuing resolution, vis-a-vis the debt limit. I think I got it nailed down, and I've also learned something else. Actually, I didn't learn it. We know it. I just had it confirmed, and it's about the Republican attitude, and it's so unnecessary. It's so defeatist. The Republican attitude is because they're total prisoners of what goes on in the Beltway. They're total prisoners of the Beltway narrative. They think, and I'm not kidding, especially in the House, they think the last 15 days have eliminated any chance they've got of winning any elections in 2014 and 2016. And I am not kidding. They think Cruz and Lee and the people that led this have doomed them. And they are defeated. They are out of strategies. It's just mind-boggling that they don't have the long view, that they don't understand the seeds that they're planting right now. They're planting some Pat Buchanan has a really good column today in which he concedes, the Republicans are going to lose this, but it would be wise for them to remember history and losing with honor. And he cites the Goldwater era versus the Rhino Lib Republicans led by Nelson Rockefeller and the gang, and how even back in 1964, Goldwater didn't have a prayer because they're coming off the Kennedy assassination. Kennedy had been martyred. JFK had like a 70-point advantage in the polls. And it makes the point that Nixon was even campaigning harder. And this is the point. Nixon was the only, other than Reagan, but Nixon was the only nationally known Republican at the time that stood by Goldwater and campaigned even harder for Goldwater than Goldwater campaigned for himself. And Buchanan's point is, look at what happened to Nixon versus what happened to all of those rhinos that threw in against Rockefeller. They were never heard from it. Nelson Rockefeller never got the nomination. Scranton, all of these guys, George Romney, they never amounted to anything in the party. They never won anything, particularly nationally, after they abandoned Goldwater in 64. Now, I know a lot of you people, come on, Rush, 1964, that's longer. History, they say, repeats itself in ways. It's not necessarily true, but you certainly can learn from it. But the fact is, they're doing the right thing here. Whether they've been dragged into it or not, they're doing the right thing. They are warning the country of the absolute dangers of Obamacare. They have done it. Well, some of the Republicans are. Others have been dragged kicking and screaming into it. But the people have led this fight. The people have done their best to educate the American people as to what's coming, are going to be vindicated down the road. They are going to, as it is said, be stood in good stead. They're going to be okay. And the Republicans that wanted to cave and give up and just go along with the Washington narrative are never going to be heard from again. They're not going to have much respect. They're not going to be seen as fighters down the road. And it's silly to think that what happened in these past 15 days means that 2014 and 2016 are already lost. I mean, Obama's running around here talking about how every Republican proposal is a ransom or taking him hostage. I'll tell you who's held hostage. The Republican Party in Washington is being held hostage. And they're being held hostage by the Democrats, which is always the case. They're being held hostage by the media, and they're being held hostage by these skewed polls. That NBC Wall Street Journal poll on Friday, I think, was the icing on the cake. as far as these guys feeling doom and gloom. Now, I've got details on what I'm talking about. Let's talk about the state of play right now. It looks like the Senate Republicans want to give Obama and the Democrats everything they want. They want to give an extension of the continuing resolution through the end of the year, which would then open the government. That would end the shutdown. They want to give them a debt ceiling hike through the middle of January so that we're not going through this during the holidays. And, they're also even offering a delay on one Obamacare tax for their union buddies. I mean, it's a total win for Obama. And you hear how Obama reacted to it? He rejected it. He rejected it. He said the Republicans have offered another ransom. I sit here. I'm as far away from Washington to be in the continental U.S. as you can get here in Los Angeles, and I'm still stunned that those guys much closer than I don't see this. And I know you see it too. Obama does not want a deal. This has always been about the 2014 midterms and coming up with ways that he can blame the Republicans for whatever pain and suffering and abnormality he can create as president of the United States. In the meantime, the Republicans think that their only solution is to end this because that will stop the bleeding and that will make people forget about it. And then maybe they'll have totally forgotten about it by the time 2016 comes along. Now, in the House, let me give you the latest details as I have them as to what the House is offering. They were in conference this morning, and apparently there's going to be a vote today. And here are the 5 provisions of what the House would offer if this holds up. And I might say that Obama will greet this as ransom as well. The House Republicans are probably going to vote on the following. House members, senators, the president, the vice president, cabinet members would all have to go into Obamacare, meaning they would not be exempted. They would not be subsidized. The staff, not included in this. House members, senators, president, vice president, cabinet members would all have to go into Obamacare, but the staff would not. They would still get their subsidy. Be a 2-year tax suspension on medical devices. Somehow, this is thought to be a big deal to people. Because the vibrator industry must be thriving out there. Because somebody wants to call it a medical device and get a tax exemption on it. There would also, the House is going to propose income verification at the exchanges for Obamacare. Right now, Obama suspended all of that. There's no income verification in order to qualify for a subsidy because their computer systems ostensibly are not up and running to be able to tell who does and who doesn't qualify. So it's the honor system. You just go in there and say, you know what, I qualify for a subsidy, and you're supposed to get it. The Republicans want to put the verification for that back in. The continuing resolution, as in the Senate bill, would go through January 15th. So the budget, or the federal budget, essentially would and the government would open up. Whatever shutdown there is would end, and the government would be funded through the middle of January. And the debt limit would be extended through February 7th. So it is a, well, it's a pretty, I don't want to call it cave because I don't want to incite anything here, but these are pretty big concessions. And it is that the Republicans really think that they are, I can't tell you, from what I've heard these last 15 days, they just think their world has ended. And they don't It's so bad that they cannot envision a way, even using the long view, of turning this into a positive. I wouldn't say the Republicans are in a no-lose situation, but I'm telling you that the D.C. media have convinced them they're in a no-win situation. Who's convinced them of this? Their own consultants, the Republican establishment, the media, and the Democrats have convinced these conservatives, and I'm not talking about the Tea Party guys. The Tea Party guys are still okay. There might be a couple of waivers in there, but the Tea Party people are still pretty solid. I'm talking about everybody else. They're the ones that just want to end this and get away and go home and forget it and pretend it never happened. So those are the two proposals. Now, I'm sure it's true for you as it is for me. Those of us outside the Beltway, we don't understand why the people inside the Beltway always believe and fall for the media narrative that we're always getting our butts kicked and we cave. Why do they always accept it? Every poll that comes, it's almost as though some people want the news to be bad. Because, I don't know, maybe they've got personal gain. They can realize somehow if the news is bad. Or maybe they're just defeatist. Maybe some people are psychologically ill-equipped to deal with success because in their minds they don't think it's real. I mean, there could be a combination of things to explain this, but this has been going on for so long. The evidence is so clear the media is never going to love them. The media is never going to respect them. The media is never going to treat them fairly. They're going to have to go out and above and beyond the media, reach the American people, which has been shown it can be done. But there is this attitude of, well, we can't. We can't win. I mean, that seems to sum up the Republican view everywhere. We can't win. And I totally, thoroughly reject that. You may not win this today or this week, but you might win 2014 and 2016. You might win in preparing the American people for the absolute debacle that is about to hit them. If there was ever a time to keep harping on Obamacare, even if you don't have the guts, if you want to give up on the idea of repealing it or even delaying it or defunding it, I should say, if you want to give up on that, at least double down on identifying what it is for people so that when it happens to them, there'll be no doubt who told them and who warned them. But there doesn't even seem to be any impetus for that. I'm looking for Georgia. Grab somebody number 12. This was on a Fox News channel yesterday. And they had, I mean, this had to be a wet dream for some conservatives. You had George Will on there and Dr. Krauthammer at the same time. Who would that be a wet dream for? What? I'm trying to think now. Let me change that. Who would that be a really, that would be, like orgasmic for? George Will and Dr. Krauthammer on the same show at the same time. Can you imagine that person to whom that would be an orgasm? Well, anyway, it happened. And they did, in fact, disagree. Dr. Krauthammer. And that's how Henry Kissinger says his name, so that's all I'm doing here. I was once talking to Dr. Kissinger, and he was recommending to me the Krauthammer column of the day. And I said, what's it about? He said, what? I said, the Krauthammer column. And he started telling me what it was about and why he liked it. So Dr. Krauthammer and George Will, and Krauthammer's of the belief that the Republicans have pretty much tossed it away here, and it's time to cut their losses. George Will had a totally different take on it.
The Republicans are coming out of this very well. The president who said, I will not negotiate, is effectively, through proxies in Congress, negotiating an unclean extension because the Republicans woke up to the fact that they have in their hand a tremendous hammer, and that is the sequester, which Democrats hate, which is written into law and will continue in effect for the rest of a decade unless the law is changed, and changing it with this Congress is going to be heavy lifting.
Now, Will said this, I think, also on Sunday. The sequester the Democrats are trying to get the sequester taken out. That's part of what they want. They want the sequester. It's a budget cut that works. You know what? You know why the Democrats don't like the sequester? Because it's a budget cut. It's not big, but nobody notices. There's no pain. So that's the worst budget cut that can happen. Something that actually cuts spending and nobody notices, proving you can do it. Worst thing that could happen to the Democrats. That's why they want to get rid of this sequester. That's why they like government shutdowns, so they can cut things that actually affect people, that they will feel, that will cause them discomfort, and blame it on the Republicans. But the sequester, everybody was scared to death of it before it happened. But the idea that we've got dollars in this budget that we can't cut because if we do, there's going to be utter disaster for people is flat out BS. And this sequester proves it. So Democrats want to get rid of it. So Will's point here is the Republicans have a gold mine on their hands in the sequester if they'll hang on to it. And his opinion is the Republicans will stay unified over the sequester. I'm not so sure. It's not that they love the sequester, is that they're in such a get out of this as quick as they can mode that I'm thinking based on what I'm saying, I wouldn't be surprised if they gave up everything just to get. I mean, I'm not kidding, folks. I say you and me, we don't understand why they keep falling for this. What is it? I understand being hated. I understand the media this, the media that, and I understand they've got to go out and get votes. But the effort, there's no effort to countermand it. There's always this appearance to us anyway that they succumb to it. But I'm like you. Why would the Republicans, I mean, I've shared with you what their proposals are. Why do they want to amend Obamacare to make it more palatable for people? I mean, a lot of these guys got elected campaigning on the notion that they were going to do what they could to repeal it or to defund it or to delay it. And apparently those were just campaign words. They get to Washington, and now things are so dire that even the proposals they offer are things that'll make it more palatable. Why would you do that? These are the same people who say it's going to implode on its own.